Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to show you how to build a table saw sled. If you've looked at any other videos for table saw sleds, I'm sure you've come across by now the 5-cut method. I think that's way overkill for woodworking, and I'm going to show you a much easier way of doing it. I like to call it the 2-cut method because it takes 2 cuts. Let's get started. Just sketching out the fence, and I want the blade to come through about 12 inches on the right hand side, and I'm going to have about 3 inches on either side just so I can be sure to keep my thumbs out of the way. This is for the high spot of the fence. Before I glue these together to make the fence, I'm going to put a groove in each side that are going to match up, and then that way I can put an extension on the end of this and have it go out beyond 2 feet, so when I have to cut longer pieces, my stop block can be out further. And also on the inside face, I'm going to route a match fit groove so I can use match fit hardware for the stop block instead of buying T-track. And of course, you can never have enough clamps. While you weren't looking, I also put match fit grooves in the base of the sled. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but it's a lot easier to do it now. In case I want to put some other kind of jig or something on the sled, I'll have the grooves there already. And here's the back fence with the groove for the micro jig and the stop block. And remember, I have that slot there. I cut a piece of hardwood flooring that I'm going to use as the runner, and it just goes in here. And I just need to cut a piece of the fence off, and I'll attach it there and then put a thumb screw. I'm not sure where this knob came from, but it's perfect for this. The back fence can be attached permanently right now. It doesn't have to be exactly 90 degrees or anything like that, because we're not going to ever reference off of it. So I'm going to glue and screw that right now. I'm going with aluminum miter bars for my sled. And the reason for that is where I live, there's wild swings in the humidity, and I don't want to have to worry about hardwood runners getting stuck, swelling up, shrinking, the sled being out of whack. These metal ones are going to work out fine, and they have holes all along the side for little nylon set screws, so you can adjust it for your saw. All right, they slide nice and easy, no side to side. I'm ready to put the sled on. You don't want to rush this part, because if your runners are sloppy or they're too tight, you're going to just be frustrated with your sled when it's done. So take your time and get your runners nice and smooth. You need to use some kind of spacer to get your runners up above the surface of the table. I'm just using a couple of nuts here because I know they'll all be the same thickness. You could use coins. I don't want to do that because I don't want the government knowing I have cash in my house. I set my fence for a 12-inch cut, and I'm going to use that to help line up my table saw sled. Doesn't really matter where you put it, left or right. Check out Nick Fury's video. He's got an explanation. He centered his but offset it 1.5 inches to one side. Check out his video, he'll explain why he did that. Now I'm just going to put some super glue on my runners. Now using my fence and the front edge of my saw, I'm going to get my sled pretty close to 90. Doesn't have to be exact at this point. And I'm just going to spray some activator on the sled and then set it in place. And now I could put some screws in it. All right, it's a little stiff. Let me wax the bottom of this and adjust those set screws a little bit. Something you want to take a look at is the edge of your table saw. I had some sharp corners right here and they were digging into the sides of my runners. So I just took a file and knocked the corners off. So keep that in mind. Once you have your sled so it slides nice and easy and you don't have any side-to-side play, everything's adjusted, we're going to cut through almost all the way so we know where our saw kerf is going to be. Make sure you keep your hands out of the way. Now you want to back the sled up so the front edge is overhanging the saw here. And for an initial setting, I'm going to use this giant speed square and just set it right up against the edge of the saw kerf and use that to align the fence. I'll clamp it and put a screw on either end. I have my back fence secured with one screw on either end. I'm ready to make my test cuts and align the fence. And this is where the 2-cut method comes in instead of the 5-cut. We're going to use 2 pieces of wood and make a cut on each piece and then use that to check and see if our fence is square. So if we put this here, we should get a right angle right here. So let's cut 2 pieces of wood. And make sure you have your hands out of the way because we need to go all the way through. Now that we cut 2 test pieces and we're hoping that this is 90 degrees, we're going to check it. Take your first piece, put it up against the fence, nice and tight. Take your second piece, this should also be 90, and just flip it over. Put it up against the fence and slide the 2 pieces together. And I can't believe it. I got lucky and I don't have a gap at all along here. So I know that over, this is about 12 inches, my fence is perfectly square because I have 2 test pieces that match up perfectly. Any error that you have between these 2 pieces of wood is going to represent double the amount that your fence is out. So if, this is exaggerated, but if the piece was like this, you can see there's a gap here. That would mean that this side of the fence on the left is too far forward and we'd need to bring it back to bring this angle where it needs to be. And if your gap was up here, that would mean this side of the fence is too far back and we'd need to bring it forward to bring it back into line. If you do have a gap on your pieces of wood, the best way to measure it is with a set of feeler gauges. You can pick these up at any auto parts store and just measure the gap, whether it's here or here. And remember, that's going to be double the error because we're working off of 2 pieces of wood. There's no math involved. You just, if you do have a gap, put your feeler gauge in, measure it. Whatever that reading is, it's double the error. If you do need to make an adjustment, make your adjustment at this point here at the end of where your test piece is. Ideally, you want to work with a piece of wood that's about as square as the depth of your sled, but for me, this is good enough. Remember, I'm just doing woodworking here, so if this happens to not be exactly 90 and it's 90.2 degrees, that's close enough. I'm doing woodworking here. I'm not building the space shuttle. Once you have all your test cuts done and you're happy, pull your fence back a little bit and put a few more screws in from the bottom. I'm also going to add some kind of block here on the back. I'm sure you've seen that before, just to make sure that I can't get my hands in the way, although with this raised portion here, it's going to be pretty difficult. Here's how the match fit hardware is going to work on this sled. They have these little dovetail dumaflachis and some nuts. I made a little stop block. I could slide it in, put it wherever I need it, tighten it down, and now I have a nice stop, repeatable, easy, move it wherever I need it. And I can put it at the end here, tighten it down, and I can extend the fence out if I need to cut something longer than the 2 feet capacity that I have now. And I also have these grooves here. I can use these blocks or something else, or I can use the match fit clamps, slide them in, clamp something down if I'm doing some kind of strange angle or something and I can't use the fence. I can just use this to clamp a board down. I hope you understood the way I explained the 2-cut method. Once you give it a shot, you'll see it makes perfect sense, and it's more than accurate enough for anything that you're going to be doing in a woodworking shop. Before you build your table saw sled, remember, you don't have to make a monstrosity the way I did. I just made it wide enough so that I could cut 2-foot wide pieces if I'm building a cabinet or something along those lines. You could make it as big or as small as you want to. If you're still in the research stages, definitely check out Nick Fury's video on his table saw sled and King's Fine Woodworking. They both have really good ideas. One thing I really liked about the one from King's Fine Woodworking is he had a removable insert where he could also do dados and 45 degrees on his sled without messing up his kerf. I would have done that with my table saw sled, except my saw tilts the wrong way and I wouldn't have been able to make it work. Remember to put a block at the back of your fence just to keep your hands out of the way. Thanks for watching.